by each of our 4 playwrights, and these will be the plays that we'll be reading through this course. And we're going to pick on one play by each playwright to look at very, very closely indeed. So for Aeschylus, we're going to read the Persians and the Oresteia. And the Oresteia is our only surviving trilogy and is made up of the Agamemnon, Libation Bearers and Furies. With Sophocles, we're going to study Ajax, Philoctetes, Oedipus Tyrannus and Oedipus at Colonus. And we'll talk about other works of Sophocles, of course, in the course of this lecture. For Euripides, the Medea, Hecuba, Trojan women and the Bacchae. And when we turn to Greek comedy and the works of Aristophanes, we're going to have a great deal of fun with the hilarious plays Clouds, Wasps, Birds and Frogs. So the first question I have for you is, why study Greek drama? Why is it important to understand this stuff and have a detailed knowledge of it? Well, I think it's interesting to start with a question that I always ask my students. What is the meaning of the word theatre? Here's a word that we apply now to going to the cinema, seeing movies, also to the physical building that we watch performance in, and to the genre of drama itself. But what does theatre mean? Well, theatre is, of course, a Greek term, and we owe a great debt to the Athenians and the Greeks in general in terms of providing us with this form of theatre or drama. Well, theatre is from a Greek word theatron, and it actually means seeing place, a place of sight, a place where we go to see drama, to see plays. And this is important, because as we will be studying these texts, I will constantly be trying to remind you that these plays were, as well as texts, were visual works of art. There was design, masks, costume, dance, music, blocking. There was an element to these productions that appealed to the visual sense of the ancient Athenians, and these plays were put on in a form that gave them the magnitude and the presence that is demanded of Greek tragedy and comedy. So theatre means seeing place, and we'll constantly be coming back to this idea of the visual element in ancient drama. But look at our debt to the Athenians and Athenian drama, and let's just look at some of the terms that have come down to us that have become embedded in our own culture. Drama itself is a Greek word which means simply doing or performing an action. The word scene is from the Greek word skene, which means a scene building. The skene seems to be Greek for tent, and as we'll study when we look at theatre architecture, the earliest form of scenery may have been a simple tent that the actors erected and changed in and then performed in front of. And of course we get the Latin word proscenium before the skene, in front of the set, proscenium, where we now get the word proscenium, proscenium arch and proscenium theatre. The word chorus, which has come to mean so much to us in modern culture, is the group of 12 to 50, depending on which period of Greek drama we're looking at, of singing and dancing actors that formed the main bulk of early Greek tragedy. And the chorus, of course, performed in the orchestra. And the orchestra was the often circular, although not always, choral performing space, which was the heart of the ancient Greek theatre. And the term orchestra has now become applied, of course, to our musicians, and the orchestra pit is still in the front of the stage, although not as prominent as the orchestra of the 5th century theatre. The term thespian, which has come to mean an actor, is derived from the legendary founder of ancient theatre, Thespis. More about him in Lecture 2. We hear the term deus ex machina, the god on a machine, a Latin term that refers to the intervention of a god character on the machina, the large swinged crane that used to pick actors up from backstage and deposit them onto the roof of the scene building or into the orchestra or on stage, one of our first ever special effects, and certainly used in the work of Euripides and perhaps even in the work of Aeschylus and Sophocles. The term protagonist, which has now come to mean any leading character in a novel or a play or a film, is the first actor in a tragedy, the protagonist, the first arguer, the first competitor, derived from the Greek word agon, which means competition. And as we'll be learning, Greek dramas were actually performed as a dramatic competition. First, second and third prize, rather like the Olympic Games. The term Odeon, which has now come to mean perhaps a cinema or a movie theatre, was a small covered theatre, and podium is a raised platform. Just some terms that have come down to us today that are all derived from the performance of Greek drama. And we'll be using these terms